Simon Sinek is an expert in organizational leadership with TED Talk views in the tens of millions. Must be nice. His best-selling book is titled Leaders Eat Last. Sinek argues that true leaders prioritize the well-being of their team members, which creates a culture of trust and cooperation. Now, as coaches, we are leaders. And keeping the latest thinking about leadership in mind, it would appear that it's our willingness to serve our followers that puts us in a better position to keep our dojo thriving over the long term. Not to dictate from the top, but actually taking the time to understand what people want from their experience in Kendo and doing what we can to serve these drivers. Sinek's work is backed up by a good deal of research, and today I'm looking at one study in particular that actually suggests that taking a service approach to coaching, one where the coach figuratively places themselves at the bottom of the club hierarchy, is the key to performing better and winning more. Yes, there is a style of coaching that has been empirically shown to improve our chances of winning. So let's get talking about servant leadership. In a nutshell, a servant leader is primarily concerned with meeting the needs of the team. Whereas traditional models of leadership place the leader on the top of the pyramid and demand that subordinates follow their directives, the servant leader turns the pyramid upside down and places themselves at the bottom of the hierarchy, with a clear picture of what each person is required to do in the team. In this case, the job of the leader is to serve or to help the subordinate to execute these roles. Like Simon Sinek explains, a servant leader prioritizes the needs of their team members rather than their own interests. And by showing those in your team or club that supporting them is more important than hierarchy or command and control, researchers and leadership experts tell us that we'll be in a better position to build the trust and camaraderie that our club needs to survive over the long term. Now, shifting things around like this might come as a bit of a left field suggestion to the more traditional coaches among us, especially the idea that we serve according to what people need from us rather than what we think is best based on our experiences. But as Rika and colleagues point out, this structure doesn't imply that the standards become lax or that the inmates run the asylum. It's actually quite the opposite. With the help of a servant leader, people are responsible for executing their roles effectively, and this should result in an environment where relationships are cultivated, everyone is valued, and productivity is enhanced. So in this study of nearly 200 teenage athletes, researchers found that servant leadership promoted athlete motivation, satisfaction, resilience, confidence, and coping skills. And according to Robert Greenleaf, widely recognized for his extensive work on servant leadership, some of the things we need to be mindful of include being a good listener, showing empathy, adopting an attitude of wanting to help or heal, self-awareness, persuasion rather than coercion, foresight and vision for the future, and a commitment to the growth of the people within our community. Now, service to people's needs and motivations clearly requires a better understanding of what drives them. So in just a minute, I want to share a couple of areas that I've focused on that have helped me to be of service more easily. But before we do that, here's a quick coaching question for you. If you were to think back to when you started out in Kendo, or at the various milestones that you've reached along the way to this point, how were your needs met by your club or your coaches? No doubt your needs were met and obstacles were overcome to some extent along the way. Otherwise, you might not be here and still training. So what was it that your coaches, clubmates, sensei or senpai did to serve you and keep pushing you through? Give them a wee shout out in the comments below. The follow on from this, of course, is how are you serving the needs of your current clubmates or students? Check out the resource I've attached to this video to get you to the next steps as a servant leader. So in the spirit of getting feedback to get better, the downloadable resource has the traits and characteristics of a servant leader for you to reflect on and maybe even give out to your members to see how much they perceive you to be of service in their Kendo journeys. Okay, so serving students is the key idea here. It's a spin on our role as coaches that shifts us figuratively from the top, where we make all of the decisions for people, to the bottom, where we attempt to provide the things that people need to do their best work or to learn, perform, and feel part of the group. Basically, we should be aiming to serve those needs and help them navigate obstacles. Of course, every coaching context is is a little bit different, and people's challenges are going to be varied. But people's participation focus and their age and stage of development are really good places to start asking about whether they're competitive or social, whether they're physically sound or carrying around old injuries. I've found that starting with conversations around these areas gives me clues on how I can be of service right now, quickly and easily. Are they more interested in the story behind the first 3 kata, or do they want to rock and roll on the shiaijo? Are they aiming for a downgrade, or are they still looking for the right martial art? And it's simply a case of showing a genuine interest. And this will go a long way in developing the trust and the rapport needed to create a strong learning environment and a strong club culture. And speaking of culture, there is another way to make the shift from being a top-down instructor to a kick-ass kendo coach, and that's by making sure that the culture you create is helping you to help everyone. And it all starts with 3 components. Click here and I'll explain more.